Fingers crossed. Says we are live.
Well, my dog picked a good time to wake up from his nap and say hello. So
Nice. Will he be making an on-screen appearance?
There he goes. He's gone.
All right, we are live, and I see some viewers in the chat. So far so good. Oh, yay. Cool. And the comments go directly into StreamYard, so I don't have to keep this other thing open as well. That's nice.
Oh, that is nice.
That's very nice. Hey, Rochelle. Hi from Huntington Beach. Hi from San Diego. Yeah, not too far. Rochelle said she is here for the horrendous technical failures.
They haven't been totally horrendous yet, so I think we're in good shape.
So far, 38 of you have found the right link. So we're off to after Yay. I multiple times sent you the wrong link. So that is amazing.
This was the hardest part, getting it all set up. So yeah.
Exactly. I think too, do you see comments on your sidebar, Krista?
Let me just check.
Because you might.
Oh, I do.
Sweet. Okay, so you can see the comments too.
Perfect.
Just wanted to. I didn't want to be like reading them out for you to answer if you like. You could see them too, right there.
Totally. No, that's good. I'm happy you pointed that out because I would not have noticed. So.
Ooh, we have a hi from Barcelona.
I just saw that too.
Barcelona is my new favorite city. I went there in January to get this tattoo sleeve finished. And
nice.
Such a cool city. Such a cool city.
Yeah, it's definitely on my bucket list of places to go. I've been to, I see a hi from Cape Town, and I've been there, which Cape Town is very cool.
Oh, that was my previous favorite city.
Oh, really? So. Nice.
Cape Town is like the most visually gorgeous city I've ever been to. Like with the mountains sloping into the ocean. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Oh, I also I ended up in a tapas restaurant in Cape Town that was like the size of a living room, probably the size of the room I'm in now, and walked in and saw Ellen DeGeneres and Portia over with a little crew, right there having lunch. I was like, holy shit.
So random, hey? That's such a random encounter. That is awesome.
Man, we got Madrid, Nigeria, Florida, Uganda.
Oh, another
California. Canadian. Yeah, Canadian. Where are you again, Krista?
So specifically? I'm in a little town called Summerland. It's in British Columbia.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Summerland.
That's such a cool name. Made up, but it is.
It sounds idyllic. I just picture fields of poppies, as far as the eye can see.
It's pretty awesome, and it's actually the neighboring town is called Peachland. So I'm like, you guys, you didn't really get that creative when naming these towns. Like Peachland has peaches. It's hot here. You guys just went literal.
Okay, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
We also got Pennsylvania, Arkansas, Wales, New York, UK. Awesome. Welcome, everyone. We're going to go ahead and dive in here. So I'm going to be asking Krista a few questions about her journey. Krista got started with her copywriting business just last March. And in less than a year, she was able to get back to her full-time income that she left before. And in January of this year, she got pretty close to 10K. She's on track for 10K this month, and is actually averaging over 8K for her second year so far, which is just super impressive, particularly in this last market. I think everyone can agree with me that this has been a rough year for freelancing. And so I want to bring on some people who have had success this year, not just like can tell you about amazing things they did prior to this, but like have hit key milestones this year, because even when the market's tough, you can still get results. You can still hit milestones. You can still grow. And so Krista was the first person I wanted to have on for this series, just because I've gotten to hear, some updates from her over the last year and know she's been kicking ass, and everything that she's going to have to share is going to be hyper relevant to you if you're trying to grow right now in this season of the market, in this market climate. So we're going to dive in. Krista works with B2C and B2B companies. Your background's in commercial sales, right?
Oh my gosh, my background is all over the place. That was my last job that I left, but I went to school for accounting, similar path to you, actually.
Hey, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So let's go ahead and just dive in with a little bit about your background, and just so everyone knows, we'll go through a few questions here, and then we'll also have some space for you guys to ask questions as well, based on what Krista has to share. And I would encourage you, if you're hopping on this call with some more general questions about copywriting, to kind of like let those out of your mind just for the moment. Really like pay attention to what Krista's about to share with us on this call, because like you're going to be getting firsthand information here that you can't get from any other generalized instruction. You can hop on a call with me when I do a Q&A session, ask the kind of general questions or questions specific to what you're doing on the challenges you have. But if you really pay attention to what Krista is going to share with us today, it's going to give you insight into how the market is working right now. And it should spur some more specific focus questions where you'll really be able to pull from the experience, the immediate, very relevant, very just within the last year experience that Krista has had launching a business in 2022, continuing to grow it. So with all that said, as we go through, if you have questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. And when we get to that point, we'll dive in. So anyway, thanks so much, Krista, for hopping on with me today. It's really great to have you here. And to get started, I'd love to hear about your background and sort of the context that you came into the copywriting space with.
Totally. Well, and thank you so much, Jacob, for having me on. It's very, very cool. But yeah, so similar to you, I graduated with a degree in accounting, and I moved to Calgary, Alberta, to pursue that. I articled at a large public accounting firm for a hot second, because I realized quite quickly I wasn't very excited about that path. And
how long did you last in that
world?
Oh
my gosh, maybe I don't even remember, maybe 3 months. I was like, oh my God, I'm like, this is not for me.
I'm going to interpret that as I made the right choice, and I can let go of any what if I had gone the accounting route questions.
Oh my gosh. I sometimes I lived in Calgary for 10 years. I recently just moved back to my hometown of Summerland. But sometimes I'd run into my accounting cohort, and they are just like, you made the right decision. So I get validation a lot. But so once I left that world, I didn't really have a backup plan. That was kind of, I went to school for accounting, got the job, moved to the place, and then I was like, what now? And so I kind of bounced around to different finance roles, and then did some startups. And then through those startups, I started getting a little bit more into sales and business development, and then went into the world of commercial furniture sales, which is the job that I left to pursue my freelance business full time.
Okay, I gotta ask, why commercial furniture sales? What led from accounting and finance to that? I don't think I've ever met someone who did commercial furniture sales.
I know. I didn't even know when I got the job, I didn't even know commercial furniture was a thing. I was like if you were to say commercial furniture, I'd be like, the brick. I don't I don't know what this industry is, but in all honesty, I had been part of 2 startups, and I was so emotionally and mentally drained, after them. They were a great experience, but, like, just I was flying by the seat of my pants day after day. And so I had a connection who was in that world, and she was like, we're looking for someone. And so that's how I got introduced. And it wasn't necessarily I was, over the moon, overjoyed about this industry or interested even. I was just like, I need some stability after transitioning out of these crazy startups.
What that tells about me though is that like you're not afraid to take action when you're not in a work situation that you like in life, and you're not afraid to try new things. Like you made multiple pivots in a short amount of time, and I think that's the type of mentality that is really suited to solopreneurship and freelancing and this world where we have to kind of embrace a bunch of little skills that pop up. You either kind of get hung up on every new challenge that arises, or you just dive in and figure it out. And it sounds like you're a dive in and figure it out sort of person.
That's Thank you very much for saying that, because I feel like for years when I was kind of bouncing around from the outside perspective, it was probably like, this girl needs to figure her shit out. Like, she does not know what the hell she's doing. But yeah, you're right. Like, I feel like I've just always been the person who won't stay in something that I'm not excited about. And that's been such an incredible asset to building my freelance writing business.
Absolutely. So commercial sales, you were doing that. Was that something you were actively seeking to get out of and looking for alternatives, or did you come across copywriting kind of inadvertently? What sort of led to you looking to transition into copywriting?
Yeah, since I was a kid, I've always loved writing. I've always written, and then as I um, grew up, I was kind of always the go-to person for friends and family who needed writing help. Um, and then in my professional career, I remained the go-to person for certain marketing initiatives, and so I had already been copywriting it, in some capacity for my whole life. And
Yeah.
I love writing, whether it's personal or for fun or whatever. I've always just really enjoyed writing, and it's always been a part of my life. Um, and I also, I'm just not. I just don't think I'm a very employable person. Like, I don't love having a job. And
It's
so,
real. That's real.
oh my God, I just don't love it. So, I could have the best job in the world, but it would still be a job. So I don't think I'd be fully happy. Um, and so I've always had kind of that entrepreneurial voice in the back of my head, curious about doing something else. And then at the beginning of the pandemic, I actually got laid off for, I think, um, 4 or 6 months or something.
Okay.
Um, and it came as quite a shock. Like, I felt quite blindsided, and it's no slight to the company. I know that they needed to do what they needed to do. Um, but I was like, damn, like, I thought that I was really, really secure in this job. This pandemic isn't slowing down. Like, I feel like I kind of need to figure out an alternative.
Yeah.
Um, and so at that time, when I had started considering something else, I didn't have any intentions of fully leaving the corporate world at that time. It was just, I need to build something on the side and kind of create an additional income stream in case this happens again. Um, and yeah, and then from there, I just kind of started getting more excited about copywriting and learning more about it, and discovered you. And once I purchased your course, that was kind of the, like, oh shit, I think I'm actually gonna do this.
Hey.
Yeah.
That's
Once
awesome.
and the Canadian dollar sucks, so it was an investment, and so I was like, I'm taking this seriously. um,
Oh,
and so I think, that was the kick in the butt that I needed to be like, I think I can actually do this and turn this into something more than a hobby.
yeah.
Mhm.
And so did you seek out copywriting as that option, or did it kind of show up in front of you and you thought, hey, like I can do that?
Yeah, it was kind of like, I mean, full disclosure, I think I was like most people when you ask them or tell them about copywriting, they're like, "Oh, patents,"
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
like,
What's
yeah.
copywriting?
And
I
so,
swear, okay, I swear more people know what chat GPT means today than know what copywriting means. Like if
100%.
I were to just walk up to a random group of people at the grocery store and be like, "Hey, do you know what copywriting is?" Like maybe 1 out of 5 might know, but if I
Yeah,
asked chat GPT, I feel like 3 out of 5 would know. Like
100%.
and that's
My
nuts. Like that
my
is absolutely wild.
my parents, like, still don't really understand what I do, but they know what ChatGPT is. So I'm like
Yes. I
like,
have been
it's
doing this for 11 years and like my extended family still has no clue. They're like,
totally.
what's that thing you do?" Like
Yeah,
it's nuts.
it's so funny. But yeah, I was like, okay, I know I like writing, um, and that's what I want to pursue. But I also have a lot of business experience, so I'm like, what is it? I basically probably wouldn't be shocked if I Googled like, what is it called when you write for businesses?
Yes.
So, yeah, so that's kind of how I settled on like, oh, copywriting would be a natural fit for me
Yeah,
because it kind of does marry that writing capability with the kind of business experience that I have.
100%.
Mhm.
And I'm curious, like, too, you said you tend to write, you were kind of the go-to writer for like people who know you. Like, were you like a reader growing up? Do you read a lot?
I I used to. I don't read a ton anymore.
Yeah.
I'd like to. I do like I love reading. I read a lot of fiction when I was a kid, and then I'm like such a sucker for like a good self-help book. I just love them. Uh,
Yes.
and so my
Do you
bookshelf
read
is
the whole thing or do you read like the first few chapters?
Oh, it depends on the book.
Okay, that's fair. That's
Sometimes I'll
fair.
scan it and be like seek out the stuff that I'm like, "No, I this is relevant to me right now." But, uh but yeah, no, my bookshelf is stacked full of books that I haven't read yet.
Yeah.
But I do want to read more. I just haven't in a long time.
I read so much growing up and
Yeah.
then kind of post college getting into work and then eventually like especially when I had my first kid, like the
Mhm.
ability to sit down and read was just non-existent. And that's
Totally.
kind of when I discovered like audiobooks. And that's been a game changer for me because I now read even more than I used to because I can listen to it while I'm exercising, while I'm doing chores, while I'm doing anything that doesn't require like real specific mental focus. So I don't know, for
Mhm.
anyone out there looking to revive their love for reading, like try some audiobooks.
Yeah, I'm gonna steal that. I'm gonna put that to use.
And I don't know if they have this in Canada, but in the US we have something called Libby, the Libby app.
Oh,
And it will connect with like local libraries and let you access their digital checkouts. So you can get ebooks and audiobooks from your library directly through an app. Super cool. I also have like 200 titles I've purchased on Audible, but like I try to use Libby when I can. Um, but yeah,
that's
love
cool.
audiobooks.
I'm gonna check that out. I hope it's yeah, man,
Oh,
you guys have all the good stuff. It takes
Emily said
Canada a
it is
long
in
time.
Canada.
It is?
Woo!
Woo.
That's awesome.
because Canada's usually late to getting all the cool stuff. So
So you got into looking at going in the copywriting direction. Now
Mhm.
there's two huge milestones that I've observed with my students, that people struggle to get to. The first is getting to the point where they feel like I can write copy, like I could actually
Mhm.
go do this deliverable for someone.
Right.
The second milestone is I have gone out and started pitching, and now I just landed my first client. So I would love to
Mhm.
hear, first and foremost, what was the moment where, was there a moment or something that you did where you felt at the end of doing that, you really strongly felt I can offer copywriting as a service? And what got you to that point?
Yeah, I think it was truthfully, I think it's the first time that someone paid me, like paid me real money.
Yeah.
Um, because I knew like I wouldn't say that I struggled with confidence in writing. Like I feel like because I've written for so long and I actually truly love writing, that was never an area where I wasn't nervous about that aspect of freelancing. But what I was, a little bit self-conscious about was, okay, are people actually going to give me their money to write stuff? And then the second that I got, my first e-transfer, I was like, oh, okay, this is legit now. Like I can actually, it just kind of validated the fact that I could do it. And then from there, my confidence just kept building. Once I invoiced like my first like $5,000 website, which was a ways down the road. But I tried to keep my focus and my goals like pretty micro,
Yeah.
so that I didn't get overwhelmed because I tend to be that person. Um, if the picture's too big, I tend to just kind of spiral. So
Totally.
um, I tried to keep everything pretty micro and just yeah, just kind of as each domino fell, my confidence just continued to build. But I would say the first, like the moment where I was like, okay, this is legit was the first time someone paid me money.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Huge. It's
mhm,
it's one of the single biggest milestones. That said, you had to reach out to someone to get that first client. So,
mhm,
like, one, how did you go about going out to get that first client?
mhm,
And I think the other question I wanna ask for, because I know it's an internal struggle, like,
mhm.
was that something where you hit a point where you felt ready, or was it you just did it? Like, you didn't feel comfortable, you didn't feel ready to work for anyone, you hadn't yet, but you just pitched, either because you were following some program that told you to pitch, or you're
Mhm.
just like, this is the only way I'm going to make money. Like, what sort of gave you the motivation to go out and start putting your services in front of people?
Yeah, full transparency, I feel like I never feel ready for any for any of the
None of us do.
no, I
None of us
never feel
do.
ready. Yeah, there's
We
never
all suspect that we're just a little full of shit,
a
like,
100%,
at all times, no
100%.
matter how much we accomplish, or
Yeah.
like this is all luck.
Yes. Like who do I think I am that I can do this? But no, I've
Mm.
never experienced a moment where I'm sitting in front of my computer about to send an email and I'm like, I am ready.
Yeah,
Like I am ready for this, whether it's, sending an invoice or pitching or whatever. Like I never feel ready ever.
yeah,
Um, but I think like I really made an effort early on because I had no experience freelancing. Like I didn't even really know when I left my job what having a freelance business really at that time looked like.
yeah,
And so I knew that going into it, like I didn't have that muscle yet. And so when I left my job, I really knew that leveraging the shit out of my network was it. Like that was going to be such a that was going to present such a potential advantage for me as I transitioned out of the working world, traditional working world. And so when I left my job, I sent out, I posted on LinkedIn and I sent out an email and just said, hey, it's been a slice. Um, you know, I'm leaving. PS, like I'm starting this writing thing. So if you or anyone has a need for those services, hit me up, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And a big part of that was I wanted to control my own narrative. Like many industries, I left one that, you know, liked to hot gossip. And so I wanted to control my own story. And then, but what that also did was it put me in front of really wide net of people. And so within my first month, I had, direct connections reaching out, but I also had co- indirect connections and referrals from people who had worked with me. Um, and I think that leveraging your network early on is so important because you're almost pre-vetted to these people. They might not know your writing capability, but they know you as a person, or they know your work ethic in another aspect. And so that was like, for getting clients, I think that was the most game changer thing I
And
could
where
have
did
done.
could you tell me again where you put that information out? Like, was it on social media?
So I made a post on LinkedIn, and
Okay,
then
on LinkedIn.
yeah,
Awesome.
and then I sent out an email basically to all my Outlook connections.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
And can you talk us through, like, because I think there's going to be people listening to this and they're going to discount it because it's like, oh, you just reached out to your network. But like, one, everyone can reach out to their network. And
Hmm.
two, like, a lot of people, what they're nervous about is how those conversations are going to go, because they think everyone in their network is going to expect them or demand that they be this like extensive expert in the field in order to hire
Hmm.
them, which is
Hmm.
just not true. So can you talk us through how some of those conversations went, and like, even if it's just a super simple exchange, and the types of work that it led to with your first few clients who probably knew that you were new to this?
Totally. Yeah. I, it, when I did that post and did that reach out, I was fully transparent about, hey, like I'm leaving my job to pursue this thing. So people already knew that this was a new venture for me. And they knew, you know, they knew that I didn't really have experience. But what they did know was that I worked my ass off to deliver quality in other aspects,
Mhm.
and that I really put a lot of effort into going above and beyond to giving good customer service. And so, truthfully, I really leaned into those things early on, because I knew I didn't have a portfolio. I didn't have really any examples of writing that I could present. And so I just leveraged the fact that I was easy to work with and I'd work around the clock to deliver quality. And that got me so far. Um, and that's just kind of the lens that I did all my reach out in.
Yeah.
And it was, yeah, it was such a yeah, it really truthfully got me pretty far until I was able to showcase a portfolio and some examples. But um, I think for people who are trying to grow their business and thinking about reaching out and leveraging their existing network, like you have to keep in mind that these people already know you. You're already in their eyes pre-vetted, which I think is half the battle for someone who's looking to work with someone else. So I think that took a lot of the pressure off of me. And I tried to focus less on the fact that these people don't, know my writing skill at all, but they
Yeah.
know who I am as a person and they know how I work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
If you can come in, like, if you can interact with people as someone looking to help them do what they're trying to do and help them
Mhm.
get their, like, reach their goals, that's why people hire employees or contractors, and they
Mhm.
hire people who are going to come in and help them accomplish their goal. And sometimes, yeah, you can afford a hyper specific expert with this, like, long list of experience, but most people can't. They're just looking for someone who can come in and make a genuine effort, you know, who will really
Totally.
listen to what they're saying, who will mirror back to them like the goals that are expressed, the instructions, who can just follow instructions, hit deadlines, things like that. A huge portion of freelancers like are not great about hitting deadlines, are not great about like just basic customer service stuff. So if you can come in and just be like someone who seems excited to be there, you know, like that goes a long way.
Totally. And once you can back that up, like I get reviews sometimes that don't even talk about my writing. It's more just Krista's really easy to work with.
Yeah.
And so, you know, still I think that is helpful to me, even now that I have, you know, that I'm a little bit more established in my freelancing career. Like it's yeah, leveraging those skill sets that you have that can be differentiators early on, whether or not you have the writing um, skill yet to present, I think is really important.
So what did some of those like first few gigs look like? Like what were the actual deliverables you were doing for these businesses?
Really low paying, not super fun work, but um, I said yes to absolutely everything
Yeah.
early on. And so what that meant was I was doing stuff I wasn't really excited about, but it was giving me experience, and they were still
Can
paying me
you
for they were
can
paying
you
me
give
for
us
it.
a few examples of some of those things?
Totally, yeah. So it was like a lot of like social media stuff.
Captions, little
Yeah.
descriptions. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of
I
that
hate those.
stuff. Oh my gosh, they're the bane of my existence. I don't even have social media, so I'm
Yeah.
like, you know,
Great
um,
for some low price retainers though, you know, and you can do them pretty
ab
quick.
absolutely. And I still have a social media client actually that I love working with.
Nice.
But yeah, those, you know, those little kind of social media things. And then I kind of got in with some agencies who gave me such good experience, but it was like the work was so low paying and the turnarounds were insane. And the expectation was that, you know, I was like on Slack. Like it basically like turned into another job.
Yeah.
And but I think again, like it was just so important for getting started, and they were paying me, so building that confidence that I could make money doing this.
Yeah.
Um, and then it also gave me insight into what I liked and didn't like. So that was also helpful as I learned kind of where I wanted to focus my attention.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So at some point, not I'm just gonna say there's a lot in the chat of like the network thing won't work for me. I don't have a network, whatever. Like
Mhm.
for some of you, that's true. For most people, you're overestimating how confident Krista felt in her network when she first reached out. Like she probably felt the same thing. I would imagine that like you reached out, but you weren't necessarily expecting to have people really interested in hiring you. You just reached out anyway.
Oh
Does
my
that sound
god,
about right?
I I my expectation, like my expectations were down here, like
Yeah.
past the floor, like
Yeah.
below the ground. I just knew that I couldn't pass up an opportunity to do it. In
Yeah.
even in the event that one person reached out, like I truly had zero expectation that anything would come from it.
Yeah.
But I just it's your network is so important. Like
I had I had a student who in the homework for module 1 where you reach out about like a website headline or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Reach out to some people in their warm network. Someone he didn't even know how to business hired him for like 14K worth of work over the next 3 months. Like you
it's
don't
insane.
know until you reach out. And you
No.
have to have the mentality of like I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to reach out. I'm just going to ping. That said, that said, at some point for you to continue growing your career, you did have to pitch people who were not in your network. So, can you
Mhm.
talk us through some of those early gigs that you got from people who weren't in your network? How you found them, how you reached out to them, what sort of gigs you closed with them?
Yeah, totally. So I tried to focus on like early on after I kind of built that confidence and I was ready to kind of start pitching. Um, I tried to focus on businesses in my I honestly, yeah, I tried to focus on businesses in my community that I was familiar with, that I like could build some easy rapport with. Um, and so I landed one of my biggest clients that way, and basically just cold reached out and was like, "Hey, I like what you're doing and what you're all about, and this is kind of what I do," and just started the conversation like really organically, not even really trying to sell anything. Um, and they reached back out and yeah, they like it turned out they were kind of interested in working with someone in a certain capacity. And then over time, like they were actually one of the first clients I moved to a retainer. And so I just really tried to focus because I wasn't really I had been getting, a consistent stream of referrals, and so I hadn't really had to work that pitching muscle all that much
Yeah.
earlier on. But once I did, like I wasn't super confident. And so I really tried to focus on, yeah, businesses that I was familiar with, that I was interested in, that I genuinely feel like I could help, and just like cold reached out a shit ton, and like, out of, I don't know, 20, like maybe like one or two got back, but one turned out to be like one of my biggest retainer clients.
That's amazing. And how did you
Yeah.
pitch out? How did you reach out to them? Was it email, LinkedIn, some other method?
Yeah, for them it was I think for them it was LinkedIn.
Okay.
I do a lot of my reach out on LinkedIn just because I
Love it.
find that it's a lot more personal because you can actually reach out to a person instead of just an info box.
Yes.
And so that's been really beneficial for me, kind of just focusing my efforts on LinkedIn.
Just want to add everyone else on the call watching this in the replay. Um, Based on on conversations with quite a few students, LinkedIn seems to be the spot right now.
Mhm.
Out of all the methods that have come and gone, been hot or cold over the years, LinkedIn's always been a consistent spot. But like as the market's pinched, some things that had been working before, I've been hearing a lot less "this is working" reports from those, whereas
Mhm.
LinkedIn has continued to stay consistent. And I think right now, if you're going to pick one spot to pitch, you'll probably have the most success on LinkedIn. Just remember, like, you can't approach it as spam. Like it is online networking. It's a
Mhm.
combination of outbound, reaching out, putting yourself in front of people, but also doing some, content, engaging with people in conversations. And I'd love to hear, Krista, like both in terms of earlier on and also like you're continuing to scale now. I'm curious, kind of like at this point, what does your LinkedIn process look like? Is it a combination of different things? Is there one thing that you just do over and over? But how do you approach LinkedIn right now?
Yeah, and so right now I'm not on LinkedIn right now as much as I
Okay,
need to be and want to be.
gotcha.
Um, just because over the last, oh gosh, I don't know, the last little bit, I've really, um, as you know, like I moved. It's been like a busy kind of last couple months.
Yeah,
Um, my husband left his corporate gig to pursue his thing, so there's been a lot
that's
going on.
amazing.
Yeah, he's a
Was that
barber.
was that in part motivated by seeing your success?
I think, well, he's very kind, and he says seeing me kind of like just go for it was a big part of that. I don't want to take credit
That's
because he
amazing.
he did it all on his own, but there's been a lot of changes in our life, and I think the beauty of building your own thing and freelancing is that you can kind of cater your business in a way that reflects that.
Yeah,
And so in the past like couple months, I've really just been kind of honestly relying on my existing clientele, which is and my retainers, just because I haven't had the mental space to kind of focus on like, the LinkedIn outreach as much as I need and slash want to. Um,
So this is a
mhm,
really good opportunity to dig into that, because again, this is one of those things where a lot of people hear that
mhm.
and discount it. They go, "Oh, you're just going to your like your former clients." But the thing is, like,
Yeah.
anyone who's done any sort of work has former clients that you can upsell or retain. And upselling and retention, I work with a lot of copywriters who are like kind of in that 5 to 6 year period of their career. Um,
Mhm.
and they do not really utilize those old clients at all. Like, I have to teach them to like go upsell the clients who liked working with you. Like, go pitch them on a retainer, and you're, even without having outbound, you're continuing to grow your income. So the question
Mhm.
becomes, by not bringing in this big stream of new clients, but still working with the old ones, how are you approaching those to increase the scope of work or establish a retainer? Or how are you continuing to grow while still leveraging, previous clients?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot of, and in the beginning, like, retainers weren't part of my process. But as I worked, more consistently with certain clients, I broached the conversation about, would you be open to moving to a retainer? And honestly, a lot more clients were receptive to that than I thought would be. So I think it's
Yeah.
also just easier for their budgeting too. Um, and so that was really helpful. And then when I kind of knew that all these crazy changes in our life were coming, and um, I kind of yeah, just like focused on kind of nurturing those existing relationships that I had, and then upselling as well. And I should add, I also raised my rates with a lot of those existing clients, and they didn't bat an eye. Like, I think
Big point.
one one was, I think I parted ways with one at that time, but I sent an email saying, like, I understand if this is outside of your budget, but just based on where my business is at now, just this rate just isn't really sustainable, but I'm happy to refer you, and just was really honest and
Yeah.
complimentary to my experience working with them. Um, and out of, I can't even remember how many emails I sent, but it was one out of like 10 maybe that decided it wasn't going to work. And everyone else was like, great, yeah, we're happy to see you raise your rates. And
Amazing.
so,
How
yeah,
big of a jump was it on average?
on average, it was, oh gosh, that that rate raise, I think, was like like, I like to price on like a project um, base, but like hourly, I think it was about like $100. It
A hundred
probably,
buck jump?
yeah, like an hour.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and so I think that's right. That's what
Like,
I think worked out too.
rough percentage wise, like, if you added up all the money you were making from those clients after that other client dropped off, how much more money were you making from the other nine in comparison to
Oh,
the
got
previous?
you. Oh my
You know,
gosh.
like 50% more, 100% more, like somewhere in between.
Yeah, I'd say that. It was probably around the 50%.
Okay. So
Yeah.
a 50% pay jump,
Yeah.
that the reason I propose that number is because that's a
Mm.
very attainable, especially when you're in your first year or two and you've probably been underpricing with a lot of these clients. Like, doing a 50
Oh
to
my gosh.
100% pay bump often goes over a lot better than people expect. Um,
Yeah.
Kind of circling back real
Mhm.
quick, even though LinkedIn hasn't been like a thing you've been hitting like really consistently recently, given
Mhm.
it was instrumental in getting maybe those initial 10 clients to begin with,
Mhm.
what was your LinkedIn process in getting those clients? Like, how did you approach, getting your services in front of people on LinkedIn?
Yeah, it was just honestly just cold reach outs, just finding mutual connections that I had.
Okay. So you leverage like, hey, I'm connected with these people. I find someone and I go, hey, like we both know so-and-so, like, and then
Totally.
would you just directly pitch from the initial conversation or how would you approach that?
Yep.
Awesome. Love it.
Yep. Yeah, there wasn't, I don't even know if you can call it much of a process, but literally that's kind of just how I started. Was I would just find the mutual connections, and then I found that it was less scary if I'm like, oh, we have something in common, which I think is why I started with the mutual connections.
Yeah.
Because you can reference like, oh, we both know this person. That's cool.
Yeah.
Like, and even better if like, oh, I worked with this person,
Yeah.
because it's almost like, oh, they can validate, you know.
And guys, like if you spend a month on LinkedIn, you're going to end up with mutual connections from like
Mhm.
even if right now you don't actually know people, like you get on, you start engaging with people, start connecting, sending connection requests, you're going to end up with mutual connections that you can then reach out to and be like, hey, we both know so and so. You don't have to know them that well to use it as a jumping off point to pitch.
Totally. Yeah, and I mean, like I do have a solid network on LinkedIn that was like, I'm very grateful that exists, but
Yep.
there was also times when I was getting a ton of no's on LinkedIn, and I literally would text friends who either, were business owners and doing their own thing, or they had a need for writing. And so it doesn't, networks exist like not on the internet as well, I think is important to note.
Yes. Very, very true.
Mhm,
Local networking groups. Like when I first started out, the first marketing job I had was hourly for a 2-person SEO company that literally 100% of their lead gen was going to the local business owners networking group.
mhm,
Like that was how they got all their business.
totally.
Like most of those people, you could not reach them online, like
Yeah,
if you wanted to, but they're right there, ready to hand their business, hand business to people. So
yeah, yeah,
that's
you
an
can't
amazing
discount.
point. Offline networks exist.
Yeah,
Like
they do. They
we
do,
forget
and they're great.
that.
Yeah, right. I know, especially in such a, oh my gosh, such a internet world. Like, yeah, utilizing those offline networks is also something that I did. So it wasn't solely like, yeah, I don't want people to be like, oh, I don't have a substantial LinkedIn network. Like that's totally okay. Like I'm sure you have an offline network that you could reach out to as well. And there are so many of those local groups. Like I would go to a few of those little networking groups and just meet people that way a little bit more organically, and that also brought in business and connections as well. So
That's awesome.
mhm.
Now when we talk about like your current business as it is, there was a question where someone wanted to know how much time you spend actively, running your business to be doing those 8K months. Like what is a typical like time investment for you on a week to week basis?
Yeah, I'd say all in probably right now less, but on average probably like 30-35 hours a week, I'd say. And that's 5 days a week. I take weekends off.
Totally.
But yeah, but certainly, some wiggle room. Like I personally don't want to be working more than 40 hours a week. And so um I know that. So therefore I know kind of the volume of work that I have to do to achieve my income goal.
Yeah.
But I would say right now, probably, yeah, right now it's again kind of an outlier just because of all the life changes, but on average, probably 30 to 35 hours a week, I'd say.
Awesome. And kind
Mhm.
of a two-part question here. This was from Lily Meerkat. Great username.
Oh, amazing.
Um, so the it's partially from her, and then I'm adding on another piece to this, which is when you were getting your initial batch of clients, Was your approach that you had like an offer that you presented, or was it, hey, do you need help with messaging? Do you need help with writing? Kind of do whatever they need. How did you approach it? Like, because it sounds like you kind of took on piecemeal stuff, but were you pitching that as just, hey, I'll help you with messaging, I'll help you with copywriting, or were you presenting some sort of specific offer? And kind of the follow-up question to that being, at this stage in your business, across however many clients you have, someone asked how many that was, by the way, currently, if you are willing to share. Is what you're doing for them pretty consistent across clients, or is it still like, do you do a lot of different things for different clients based on what they need?
Yes. So the first part of that question, when I was first kind of reaching out, I said yes to everything. And so because of that, my reach out was, I can help you do writing. Like for this, for this price or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I can help you do writing. So it was kind of very generic. And then as I became a bit more established and comfortable and realized what I liked and didn't, I tried to narrow down my service offering. And so it became a lot more pointed. It became a lot more, hey, I've done a website exactly like this. I can do your web copy.
Yeah.
Hey, I write articles and blogs for this industry. You're in the same industry. I can help you do that. So it became a lot more pointed and direct and specific as I just kind of figured out what I liked and built up examples. But in the beginning, it was definitely very general. Like it was very, I think, evident to the people that I was reaching out, like, hey, I'm just starting out.
Yeah.
So to them, they were probably like, oh, we can get some writing help for cheap. Right. So it was kind of a win-win.
Which they did.
Which they did.
That's why it's a win-win. You get the practice, they get cheap, flexible help to, like
Totally.
they don't have to have this super like guys, the thing you have to understand, when you want to go get a specific expert for a specific task, not only are you paying a lot for that, but you need to really have a strong understanding of how you're going to utilize it in your marketing. Like, you have to be on top of your shit to be able to afford paying out that amount. Whereas the reason people like working with freelancers is you don't have to know everything. Like, you can be just as lost as they are, and they're just kind of there to help you out as things pop up, as you realize, oh, we gotta plug the leak here. Oh, this just came up. I need to send out a message, but I'm not great at this. Like, people like the flexibility and cheapness of someone coming in who's just kind of helping with messaging. There is a niche in the market for that. So yes, it is like, yes, we want to move in the direction of consistent offers, of higher ticket offers, of specific levels of expertise, but you don't have to be there to get started and, land some initial gigs. And this is why I kind of push back against the whole charge what you're worth narrative, because like, yes, there's validity to that, but the people who get caught up on that most are beginners who, like, your copywriting isn't worth much at the beginning. Like, just honestly, like you need to put in a lot of reps before you're actually writing stuff that's getting any sort of results. Even then, like, I would imagine 90% of the clients you've worked with don't have any like actual performance data that they can hand you on the results of your copy. It's just, they need messaging for things they're doing online and they don't really track it. They just need it. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
That's a big chunk of this market. Like, that's a big chunk of freelance writing, is just helping people with stuff they need help with,
Totally.
and it's why I encourage everyone to think like a consultant. Like, you're not coming in just to do one thing. You're coming in to like help people solve their problems, get to their goals. Like, think like a consultant, think like a marketer, think about like look for ways that you can come in and understand how profit is driven online. And that's what gets you to the point where you're making significant income. And especially with the emergence of AI and like ChatGPT, the ability people have to just churn out messaging where they have no clue how it's performing, that's a lot easier now. Not everyone's using it. There's still people like who care a little more about it reading well, or it saying what they're trying to say, or it being factually accurate. So it has not wiped out that corner of the market, but it has resulted in more people turning to that instead of turning to like, a $20 an hour writer. And it means that you need to be more intentional about doing what you always needed to do, which is follow the profit, understand how content actually drives profit for businesses, and plug yourself into that process, into that customer journey, into those funnels. But anyway, I'm curious, like, when it comes to the work that you're doing right now versus the work you were doing 6 months ago, what would you say is the biggest difference? The work that's generating 8K per month for you versus work when we're just trying to replace I think it was 6K a month that you had at your full-time job that you were just looking to replace.
Yeah. I think it's just a lot. It's just a lot more specific. Like I'm doing really primarily web copy and blog and article writing right now. And it's because I learned by trying literally everything that I really loved those things. And that's where I wanted to focus my attention. But that only came from literally saying yes to every single thing that came my way in the beginning. And just being okay with kind of also just figuring out how to transition out of the things that I said yes to early on in order to pursue more of the things that I wanted to do, which again are the web copy and the blog projects, because those tend to also pay a bit more. And that's just what I've started building my portfolio around. And I still offer, like, if someone needs, like email marketing or a content audit or something like that, like, I also like to stay flexible to those things, and I still offer those as services. They're just not the ones that I'm promoting at this time, just because I don't love them as much. But it doesn't mean that I'm not flexible. If someone comes to me and is like, hey, I need help with this email marketing strategy, it doesn't mean that I'll say no.
Totally. Love that. I want to I just realized that I can do this. I think I can do this, but there we go. Look at that.
Whoa. Hey,
look at that.
That's cool.
I love this from Emily. ChatGPT is like having a really, really keen intern who needs to have everything checked.
That's so funny. I love
so
that.
true.
It's so true.
It's so true. Like, the intern can do some legwork for you.
Totally.
But like, you're not gonna like
blindly
pass
send
the
it
output from the intern directly to the client ever.
Totally. That's a great analogy.
I love that. Thanks for that, Emily.
That's awesome.
So we're going to take a minute, and I'm going to see, I think there's a few questions that I didn't quite hit. Maybe, do you have an extra few minutes, Krista?
Of course. Yeah.
Let's see. Here's a good question from Atena. How did you originally establish your rates?
That's a good question. Yeah. Rates are something that are still so wild to my brain because they can be really hard to comprehend. So in the beginning, I was like, I literally have zero idea what to charge. Like I don't know, because you do research and you're like, Google will be like, oh, the typical rate range for a beginner copywriter is like $0 to $500. You're like, okay, like that's not very helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did a lot of research, just kind of in my local area, and tried to figure out what copywriters were charging. And because I wanted to stay competitive with beginner copywriters in my area, but without undercutting anyone. So that was something that I really wanted to focus on. So I kind of picked an amount on the lower range of the research that I found, which I think is probably, I mean, rate ranges are different everywhere. So wherever, I don't know where you're from, but um, I would recommend doing some research. But I picked a rate kind of on that lower end. And then that's what I started with. And literally everyone was saying yes to that. So I was like, okay, maybe this is an indicator that I should, raise my rate. And so it literally, it was like I threw shit at a wall and saw what stuck in the beginning, because it's tough to figure that out in the beginning, because there's the ranges and how people charge, whether it's per word, hour, project, like it's kind of just such a wide array. So yeah, just researching in my local area was helpful, and kind of starting at the lower end and just going up from there.
Yeah. Had a question here. I've had a few questions from Dave. Wanted to make sure I got to one of yours, Dave. See here. What is the pain point that clients are concerned about that leads them to buy copywriting? Now, I know
Mm,
this is a broad question with many different answers. So
mhm.
maybe the version of this that you could answer, Krista, is what has been the most common pain point that you've encountered that's like motivated people to want to spend money to get someone who's better at messaging than them or better at copywriting to come help them?
I think for me, in my experience, I think it's just been taking big ideas and presenting them in a concise way. Because I think that, at least from what I've seen, a lot of, whether you're working with a business owner or what have you, I think a lot of times they're, obviously, as they should be, in uh, they're so in their business, and they're so like in the throes of everything and all the moving parts of their business, and they have all of these big ideas of what they want to say, but because they're not removed and seeing their business from an outside perspective, I think that it can be hard for a lot of those um, businesses and people to condense their ideas and present them in a concise, easy to digest way, and also in a way that is enticing and will make things interesting to their target audience. So I think um, that's, and really, to me, I think that's the goal of copywriting, is to take ideas and make them concise. And so yeah, so especially for websites and for like brand messaging and things like that, I think that that's been the biggest pain point is, hey, I know what I want to say, I just don't know how to get it across in a way that's easy to digest.
Yep. Like that was the single biggest deliverable for me in my early years of copywriting, was just people like, it's why I really like doing value propositions, because the value
Mhm.
proposition is kind of like the encapsulation of the business. And people, like, they can talk about their business all day, but when it comes to like taking the idea in their head and laying it out through written words, it's just very hard for them to condense it and capture how they feel about the business in writing. And
Mhm.
so when you can come in and just help them take the idea and translate it into written words, like that's a huge value add.
Mhm.
And it can be enough to like build a sustainable career just by helping people have that experience. And obviously,
Totally.
there's lots of different paths you can take from there. There's lots of ways you can, you know, go in more directions of copywriting that are very like measurable, things where you can
Mhm.
get proven results and show like data on I did this and it got X results. Um, but there's a massive market that doesn't even overlap with that doesn't even like there are millions and millions of dollars of money spent on copywriting that will never be measured. That is literally just
That's one of the
business
most
communication.
annoying parts.
Yeah, it really is. Because like at a certain point, you want that. You want the measurability.
Totally.
You
Yeah,
want to work on those
totally.
projects, and they're kind of hard to find. They're
Yeah.
not always easy to go get because not a
No.
lot of people are doing it.
Yeah. That's one of the, I mean, I love what I do now and I wouldn't trade it for the world, but oh my God, that's one of the most, that's one of my qualms with it is that like, you know, most people don't measure the success of copy. So I just am like, well, I don't know. I don't know. Did it do good?
You don't know. And you're never gonna know.
And I'll never go to know. I close my eyes every night going, I don't know.
Your job is to give something the business owner's happy with.
Totally. Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
great comment here from Alexander. Great to see you on here, Alex. What has been your proudest moment in the copywriting business so far?
Oh, that's a really thoughtful question.
Yeah.
Um, oh gosh, I think um, it's tough because it's been such an exciting, overwhelming journey, and I think having those little micro goals of like, ooh, like I'm gonna hit send on my first like $1,000 invoice. You know, I had like little tiny little proud moments that really kept me going and kept me motivated. But
Yeah.
I think it just comes to mind. I think um, one of like my proudest moments was when I started getting reviews because it was like it was just so validating to what I was doing because you know, freelancing is not, especially now, like it's not all butterflies and rainbows and it can be really challenging and really hard and you can question a lot of things and you can question like, oh my God, like, you know, am I, you know, the imposter syndrome starts to creep in and you're like,
Yeah.
like, what am I doing? Like, am I doing this right? And I had so many moments like that. And I still do. Like, I still have moments where I'm at my computer and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I don't know that that will ever change. But I think that, yeah, it just, what comes to mind for one of my proudest moments was just, yeah, when I started getting reviews that I could then, you know, post on my LinkedIn and my website. And like I would literally get some of my reviews, I would literally cry because it's like such validation
Yeah.
that you are doing it and that you're
Yeah.
succeeding because yeah, freelancing can be like a, you know, can feel like you're alone on an island sometimes.
Yeah.
So getting
You,
those little,
you're taking a bet on yourself, you
and
know?
it's so scary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's so true. All right, Rochelle set me up with a real softball here, so I have to throw this one on.
Sorry to interrupt. Rochelle also had a comment earlier
Oh
on
wait,
that
that's not
like
the one, but
that
this is the one. Go ahead.
it like what did she say? You said tapas and she was like, I thought you said topless. And it was like right when we were jumping into things and I like I had to like hold in my laughter, but I needed to point it out because I've been
Yes,
thinking about it this whole time.
a tapas bar.
Yeah.
Tapas. It is small plates of food.
It's like been in the back of my brain this whole interview.
That's
Ah,
hilarious.
yeah. So great, Rochelle. Great job.
Amazing. So question from Rochelle that I would be negligent not to throw on here. I'd love to hear how you applied the stuff from the course and how it helped you along the way. You know, is there anything specific from it that you felt was a big benefit in, you know, um, growing the business?
I don't this I don't know if this is gonna be an exciting answer, but I literally just did what Jacob told me to do in the course. Like, it's such a it's such an actionable it's such
Mm,
an actionable course, right? Like, it's not just, giving you this information that you're just like, "Okay, I can't apply this." The way that it's structured with like, hey, I'm going to give you this really good information and what worked for me, but then I'm also going to make you do this homework. Not
Yep.
make you, you choose if you do it or not. But I'm going to give you this homework that's designed to like build your business before you're even building your business kind of thing. And
Yeah.
so it's yeah, it's probably not an exciting answer, but I literally just did what you told me.
The goal of my course is to make completing the course building the business. So
Totally.
you
Yeah.
built the business. Like what more is there to say, right?
Yeah, totally.
And speaking of that, so you can connect with Krista on her website, which is
Mhm.
kristafabro.com.
Yep,
Yes.
yep.
Let me pull up the link here so I can add it to the chat. And exciting. And I'll throw this up on here. On top of that, next week, May 1st, we are relaunching the Right Minds community. And unless something changes between now and Monday, Krista will be in the community. So you will be able
Yay!
to connect with her directly, collaborate with her in building your own businesses. I'm going to throw up the page for this. It's not opening up until Monday, so the buttons aren't really going to do anything for you. But you can go ahead and look at the plan for the group. We're really leaning into AI here. In terms of the goal is to really tackle AI head on and embrace that this is the new normal and how people are going to approach writing and how they're going to approach hiring marketing services and writing services. And also that we have the potential to create a lot more and create better stuff than we have before. Right Minds is a really special community. I had to close it down before Krista's time. And so I'm really excited to launch it back up with Krista and individuals like her. Cause like you're literally the perfect fit for like the vibe of the community, just
Aw.
like very collaborative and helpful and happy to share. And like, like it's a really great experience. So anyone watching
Thanks,
this
Jacob.
would love to have you in the group. I'm also going to be making my course half off for anyone who joins Right Minds. So if you join Right Minds, it doesn't matter how long you stay in the community. If you join it, you'll get a $500 discount on the course. That'll be next week. I'm also in the process of adding AI training to the course modules and also putting together a standalone AI copywriting training, which you will also get for free if you join Right Minds, because you will be helping me make it. We will be doing live calls where we'll be walking through everything, and I'll be using the questions that you have to help make it a better outcome for everyone who joins. So I'm going to go ahead and throw that link up so you guys can check it out. Super excited to collaboratively tackle this new normal of AI assisted copy, which I think honestly doesn't have to be a downside.
Mhm.
Like I think I have been finding ways that AI not only helps me go faster, but helps me actually create better things, and that's what I'm excited about. It's the ability to like do things that I wasn't able to do before, even with like writing
Mhm.
fiction. My plan, I always wanted to be a science fiction writer. I didn't want to be a starving artist. So I pushed that off. And my plan was to try to semi retire at like 35 and just write for 2 years and then get back into services if I needed to. And now I don't think I have to do that. Like, I think I can start right now because the things that I'm bad at with fiction that you have to put the reps in, like scene writing, dialogue, ChatGPT can help with that. It can like churn out like a scenario with dialogue that at least gives you a starting point to think and better picture what you're trying to do. So anyway, I'm really excited for this. I would love to have anyone watching this if you want to join in with us. It's a very practical community. Like we're just in there building cool shit and helping each other out along the way. Super excited to have you specifically in the community,
Aw,
Krista.
thanks, Jacob. I'm
Yeah.
honestly so excited. I can't wait. I think it's gonna be such a cool group of people that, um, yeah, I don't know. It's tough right now. Like, it's tough right now to not feel pressure to like pick a side when it comes to AI. Like, either you're excited or you're like, oh, the robots are like taking our job. And
Yeah.
so I think what you're creating is going to be such an exciting group of people that are not necessarily or don't necessarily care about like picking a side, just want to learn about how to adapt and grow their businesses in this kind of like new agey landscape. So I'm so excited to be a part of it. And yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited, guys. And like, I think the thing is like when things are shaken up, it's opportunity. Like it can be
Mhm.
scary, but it also creates opportunities. And if you're someone who's like trying to find your niche, trying to find where the angle you enter the market, there's no better time than when everything's in flux and everyone's
Mhm.
scrambling to figure out new tech. It's an amazing opportunity to come in and master something that's making everyone else uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Um, and I just want to say too, we have a lot of people from all over the world. One of my biggest like regrets with the old Right Minds was that the way it was priced, it was just unaccessible for people in countries that had weak currency compared to the US dollar.
Mm.
And so, one, I've dropped the price. Instead of us doing quarterly, before you had to pay 150 to like join, it was 50 a month. You had to pay per quarter. Now we're doing 20 a month. It's only paid per month. And we're also adding the parity pricing on top of that. So if you're in a country, there's going to be discounts reflected in the pricing for you based on the strength of your currency. So my goal with this is that, people who are action takers and ambitious and, creative and wanting to tackle this from all over the world can enter and join us in this community without price gatekeeping anyone. That's the goal. And I'm really excited to have a really diverse community of writers from around the globe. We're going to have 2 weekly calls spaced in a way that everyone in the world should be able to attend one during normal waking hours. So
That's always
that's
a challenge.
yeah, that's the challenge. That's the goal. And I hope to see all of you guys in the community. Thanks so much, Krista. The replay should be available unless I am very unlucky or very incompetent. And I will see all of you guys hopefully in Right Minds, if not in the next video on YouTube.
Thanks so much, Jacob. Thanks, everyone.
See you guys.
Bye.